remember when we first met. It feels like it was just yesterday, yet it's been years. I can still picture the way he looked at me that first time, like I was the only person in the room. I wasn't used to that kind of attention, and to be honest, I wasn't sure I deserved it. But there he was, smiling at me like I was the sun. He made me feel like I mattered. Like I was special. We had such big dreams, didn't we? Talking about the future as if it was this perfect, clear path ahead of us. A little house with a garden, 2 dogs, a steady job, and eventually, we'd grow old together. I'd be the woman. Sitting next to him in our old age, laughing about how we met and reminiscing about all the good times we'd had. He always promised me that. He said we'd never let life get in the way of us. We'd always find time for each other, no matter what. But somewhere along the way, something changed. It wasn't sudden, and it wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, so subtle that I didn't notice at first. A little less affection, a little more distance. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was just the stress of work, the usual grind of life. After all, marriage isn't always perfect, right? It's supposed to have its ups and downs, but I started to feel it more and more. The way he'd come home late without any real explanation, his eyes glued to his phone whenever we were supposed to be spending time together. I'd ask him about his day, and he'd say it was fine, but the way he said it, it didn't feel like he meant it. I could tell he was distracted, even when he was right there next to me. At first, I tried to brush it off. Maybe I was overthinking things, I told myself. But then I started to question everything. When we'd go out, he'd be off in his own world, barely making eye contact. He'd nod when I spoke, but I knew he wasn't really listening. It was like I was talking to a stranger who had just learned how to smile. One night, we were sitting on the couch, watching TV. It was one of those rare nights where we didn't have to do anything, no appointments, no work, no obligations. Just us. I wanted to say something, anything, that would bring us back to what we used to be. I glanced at him, and I saw that look again. The same one he used to give me when he'd tell me how much he loved me, how we'd never change. But this time, it felt hollow. The warmth wasn't there. I opened my mouth, but the words caught in my throat. I didn't know what to say anymore. What could I say? Are you okay? That's all I could manage. He glanced at me, distracted. Before muttering, yeah, I'm fine. Just tired. I nodded, but something in me didn't believe him. Something in my gut twisted, and for the first time, I felt a deep, gnawing uncertainty. Okay, I said, but it sounded more like a question. You sure? You've been acting kind of distant lately. He sighed, rolling his eyes slightly. I'm just busy with work, okay? It's not a big deal. It stung, hearing him dismiss my concern so easily. I tried to smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. Right, of course. But it wasn't just work. It was something else. I could feel it. The way he'd retreat into himself, the way his laughter never seemed to touch his eyes anymore. I wanted to reach out, to pull him back, but I didn't know how. And the more I tried to connect, the more he pulled away. I don't think he even realized what he was doing. Or maybe he did. Maybe he just didn't care. At night, when we lay in bed, I could feel the space between us growing wider. His back turned to me, his body stiff. I used to think nothing could ever come between us, but now, all I could feel was the coldness creeping in. I wanted to blame him, to shout at him and demand answers. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, hoping that this was just a phase, that things would go back to normal if I just waited long enough. I kept telling myself that, because the idea of losing him, the idea of facing the truth, it terrified me. I thought about the vows we made, how we promised to stick together through thick and thin. But now, I felt like I was drowning in a sea of doubt. I tried to convince myself it was just a rough patch, that we could work through it. But deep down, a small voice whispered that something was wrong. I still loved him. I still believed in us, or at least, I wanted to. But that trust, so firm at the beginning, was slowly slipping through my fingers, and yet, I couldn't bring myself to question him directly. I wasn't ready to hear the truth. I wasn't ready to face what it might mean if I was right, but it was there, looming. I could feel it, a weight pressing down on my chest, making it harder to breathe. I just had to hope, didn't I? That we'd be okay. That we'd get through this like we always had before. I didn't want to admit it, but a small part of me wondered if we ever would. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd go snooping through someone's phone. I always trusted him. But that day, something inside me snapped. I was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, when his phone buzzed. The sound was so loud in the otherwise quiet house. My eyes involuntarily darted over to it. The screen was facing up. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe I was just tired of pretending that everything was perfect when it clearly wasn't. His phone lay there, just waiting. I walked over, my heart suddenly beating faster, my hands cold. The message was from a name I didn't recognize, Sophia. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that I was overreacting. I picked it up, glancing quickly at the message. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again. My breath caught in my throat. I tried to push it away. It was just a message, right? It didn't have to mean anything. But why was I suddenly feeling this tightness in my chest? It wasn't just the message itself. It was the way my mind immediately jumped to conclusions, the way I started questioning everything I thought I knew about us. I told myself it was a mistake. He probably knew her from work or something. I should just put the phone down and forget about it. But I couldn't. I couldn't stop staring at that message, my mind spiraling. When he came into the kitchen, I acted normal. I smiled, said, "Hey, dinner was good, huh?" But he was different. His eyes were unfocused, like he wasn't really seeing me. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, it was fine. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to ask about the message, confront him, but I didn't have the words. What if I was wrong? What if I was just being paranoid? But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I saw him, I kept replaying that text in my mind. Can't wait to see you again. The words echoed in my head, turning over and over. What did it mean? The next day, I tried to act normal. We went about our usual routine, but there was this underlying tension. Every time he picked up his phone, I felt a rush of anxiety. What if there were more messages? What if there were more signs? I started watching him more closely, noticing the smallest details. He was more distracted than usual, his phone always in his hand, his replies to me half-hearted. "Hey, can we talk?" I asked him that night, my voice quieter than usual. He didn't even look up from his phone. "Yeah, what's up?" His voice was absent, like I wasn't even there. I couldn't keep my frustration in check anymore. "What's going on with you? You've been acting weird lately." He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. "I'm fine. Just stressed. Work, you know." I nodded, but it didn't make sense. He wasn't just stressed. There was something more, something I couldn't place, but I could feel it. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, my heart pounding with uncertainty. Why couldn't I shake this feeling? I kept thinking about the message, about the way he looked at his phone when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Was I imagining things? I had never doubted him before. We used to talk about everything, and now I felt like I didn't know who he was anymore. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the darkness pressing in on me. The next morning, I tried to ignore it, tried to focus on my day. But everything seemed different. Every word he said, every action he made, seemed to carry weight now. I couldn't stop wondering if I was just overreacting, if I was just being paranoid. I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept thinking about him. What was he doing? Was he thinking about me, or was he thinking about her? I started searching through his things. His coat pockets, his bag, his shoes, anything that might tell me the truth. I felt like I was losing my mind. I hated myself for doing this, for distrusting him, but I couldn't stop. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. But the moment I saw him, the doubt came rushing back. He was on his phone again, his fingers moving quickly over the screen. "Are you really going to keep doing this?" I asked, the words escaping before I could stop them. He glanced up, confused. "Doing what?" "This. You're always on your phone. You don't talk to me anymore." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "I'm just busy, all right? I'm not doing anything wrong." I wanted to believe him. I tried to. But everything in me screamed that he wasn't being truthful. I couldn't keep this up. I couldn't keep pretending that I didn't feel the distance between us growing every day. I wanted to confront him, but I was scared. What if I was wrong? What if I ruined everything because I was too insecure, too obsessed with a single message? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't keep living in this uncertainty. I needed to know the truth, but how far would I go to find it? How much of myself was I willing to lose just to uncover the truth? I didn't have the answers. But I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I never wanted to be the type of person who invaded someone's privacy, especially not his. But after the message from Sophia, I couldn't help myself. Every time he left his phone unattended, I felt my heart race, my palms sweat. What if there was more? What if I was just being naive? What if everything was falling apart and I didn't even know why? One night, he left his phone on the kitchen counter while he took a shower. My breath hitched in my chest, and I walked over to it. I didn't want to. I didn't, but my hands moved of their own accord. I told myself I was only looking for an explanation. Something to confirm that I wasn't crazy. I unlocked it. There were texts. More than I could have imagined. The first one was casual enough. "Hey, what are you up to?" Then, further down the thread, things took a more intimate turn. "I can't wait to see you tonight. I've been thinking about you all day." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My vision blurred. And I had to sit down, clutching the phone in my hands. I could feel the tears start to gather, but I couldn't cry. Not yet. Not while I was still holding on to some shred of hope that this wasn't what it looked like. I scrolled through more messages. There were pictures. Sexy ones. And then I saw the one that broke me completely. I miss your touch. I need you. I dropped the phone onto the counter. The sound of it hitting the surface felt like a hammer striking a bell, echoing in my head. How long had this been going on? How could I not have known? The anger and confusion mixed together. Was I blind? Was I too trusting? I had to know. I had to confront him. I couldn't just let this go. He came out of the bathroom, looking casual, like nothing was wrong. He hadn't seen me yet. I picked up the phone again. Whose texts are these? I asked, my voice shaking despite myself. He froze. His eyes darted to the phone, then back to me. What are you talking about? I handed it to him, my hands trembling. Don't lie to me. I know everything. His face went pale for a second. But then his expression hardened. He took a deep breath, clearing his throat. You're overreacting. Overreacting? My voice rose. You've been texting her, sending pictures, talking about meeting up. What the hell is going on? He looked at me, eyes narrowed. It's nothing. Just some harmless flirting. I couldn't breathe. Harmless flirting? Are you serious? This is an affair, and you're calling it harmless. He stepped closer, and I could feel the heat of his body, but there was nothing comforting about it. It's not what you think. You're making something out of nothing. I haven't done anything wrong. I wanted to scream, but instead, I felt this cold, suffocating sense of disbelief wrapping around my chest. How long has this been going on? I asked, barely able to get the words out. It's just a few messages. That's all, he said, voice now defensive, almost dismissive. You're blowing this out of proportion. No, I whispered, stepping back. I'm not. You're the one who's been lying to me. You're the one who's been. I haven't been doing anything. You're just being paranoid. God, this is crazy. You're losing it. His voice was sharper now, and I could feel the frustration building in him. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't even close. He was angry, and I was the one who was supposed to apologize for catching him. I'm not crazy, I said, my voice cracking. You don't get to gaslight me like this. I saw the messages. I saw the pictures. I saw everything. He was standing in front of me now, his hands outstretched in a gesture of mock reassurance. You're blowing it out of proportion. Why? Are you even digging into my stuff? What are you trying to prove? I shook my head, tears finally starting to fall. You're lying, and I'm not stupid enough to believe you anymore. This isn't harmless. You've been cheating on me, and you're standing here, telling me that I'm the one with the problem. He stared at me for a moment, then stepped back. I don't have to explain myself to you, he said, his voice suddenly cold. Explain yourself? I said, my chest tightening with a mixture of heartbreak and rage. You don't have to. Explain? You think I'll just forgive you because you say it's nothing? How long were you planning on lying to me? Honestly, he said, his eyes narrowing, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what you think you're going to get out of this. I want the truth. I want you to admit what you've done. I want you to say it out loud. He just stared at me, and for a second, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes. But it disappeared just as quickly. He crossed his arms, his face hardening again. You're being ridiculous. I let out a bitter laugh. I'm ridiculous? You've been screwing around behind my back, and I'm the one who's ridiculous. I never meant to hurt you, he said quietly, but his words didn't carry any weight. It wasn't an apology, it was just a feeble excuse. I felt the rage building again, this time mixing with something worse. A kind of hollow emptiness that I couldn't shake. How could he do this to me? How could I have been so blind, so trusting? You don't get to play the victim here, I said, my voice low and shaky. You don't get to hurt me and then make me feel like I'm the crazy one for calling you out. I don't want to talk about this anymore, he said, his voice firm now, like he was done with the conversation, but I couldn't stop. I wasn't ready to stop. Not until I knew the truth, until he admitted what he'd done. You've already destroyed everything. Don't you think you owe me that much? He turned away, heading toward the door, but I grabbed his arm. Look at me. I'm asking you to look at me and admit that you've betrayed me. He yanked his arm free. This is ridiculous, he muttered again, like it was all my fault. The door slammed behind him, and I collapsed onto the couch, gasping for air. The anger was still there, but it was losing its edge. Now all I felt was a deep, aching emptiness. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to do anything to feel like I had control again. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there, broken, the phone still lying on the table in front of me. I didn't know who I was anymore. I was done with the guessing. Done with the uncertainty. This time, I wasn't going to let him talk his way out of it. The proof was right in front of me, laid bare. I had the screenshots, the messages, and his lies. There was no more room for excuses. He was in the kitchen, pouring himself a drink. I stood in the doorway, my heart pounding, my stomach a tight knot of fear and anger. The weight of it all was pressing on me, every word I had swallowed, every ounce of trust one had blindly given him. It was all falling apart. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. Can we talk? I said, my voice barely a whisper, but it felt like I was shouting. He didn't even look up. Sure, he muttered, his back to me, clearly uninterested. I stepped into the kitchen, moving closer to him. About this, I said, holding up my phone. The messages were all there, every word, every photo, everything I had found over the past few days. I let him see it, watching his face carefully. He froze for a second, then quickly shrugged it off. Oh, come on. You're really going to make a big deal out of this? I felt my chest tighten. A big deal? You've been sleeping with her. And I'm supposed to just ignore it? He sighed, setting the glass down. It's not like that, okay? You're overreacting. It's just a mistake. A fling. Nothing more. I could feel my pulse racing. A fling? Really? You think I'm that stupid? I wanted to scream, but I held it in. I couldn't give him that satisfaction. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said, but there was no emotion behind his words. They were empty, like he had said them 100 times before. Then what do you call this? I asked, my voice shaking. What do you call lying to me, sneaking behind my back, and letting me think everything was fine? He turned to face me, his expression cold, as if we were discussing the weather. I don't know. It's complicated. But you didn't see it coming. You never even noticed, did you? The words sliced through me. I didn't notice? You think this is my fault? I could feel the tears pricking at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wasn't going to cry in front of him. He looked at me like I was the problem. Yeah. You were always so busy, so wrapped up in your own stuff. You didn't see how distant I was getting. How I was feeling. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to slap him, to shake him, to make him feel what I was feeling. This is on me? You've been having an affair, and it's my fault for not noticing sooner. Maybe if you had paid more attention, we wouldn't be in this mess, he said, like it was that simple. I could feel the room spinning, my legs unsteady beneath me. It wasn't my fault. I hadn't done anything wrong. But he was trying to make me believe I had. He was trying to twist this into something that wasn't my fault. I stared at him, my hands shaking. You're unbelievable, I whispered. How can you stand there and say that? His face hardened. What do you want me to say? You caught me. I admit it. But it doesn't change anything. I still love you, but I needed more. I needed something that you weren't giving me. I recoiled. You still love me? Then how could you do this? How could you betray me like this, and then stand there, telling me it's my fault? He stepped closer, and I instinctively took a step back. Look, I know I screwed up. I'm not proud of it. But you're not perfect either. You're not enough for me. I told you that a long time ago, but you never listened. His words hit me like a physical blow. I felt nauseous. The person I had trusted, the person I had given everything to, was telling me I wasn't enough. That I wasn't good enough to keep him happy. Is this what you've been thinking all along? I asked, my voice breaking. That I'm not enough? Is that why you did it? He looked at me, his eyes cold and detached. I don't know, okay? I don't know why I did it. I was unhappy. I was lonely. You weren't there for me. You're unbelievable, I repeated, tears finally spilling down my face. You've been lying to me for who knows how long, and now you want me to believe it's my fault. I didn't want this to happen, he said, his voice softer now, but still defensive. But I can't change it. I can't undo what I've done. So, what do you want from me? I shook my head. I don't know anymore. I don't know what I want. I don't know if I can stay with you after this. I don't know if I even want to. He scoffed. So, what? You're just going to leave? After everything we've been through, you're just going to walk away? I stood there, the weight of his words pressing down on me. Part of me wanted to leave. Part of me wanted to never look at him again, to walk out that door and never come back. But another part of me, the part that had loved him with everything I had, couldn't bring myself to do it. I don't know, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I don't know if I can leave. But I don't know if I can stay either. He looked at me like I was the one who had destroyed everything. You're making this harder than it has to be. I've already admitted it. What else do you want? I want you to feel something. I shouted, the frustration boiling over. I want you to realize what you've done to me. To us. But you're just standing there, acting like this is all my fault. His expression remained unmoved. What do you want from me? I already told you. I'm sorry, okay? But you're not the only one who's been hurting. I felt my heart shatter all over again. How could he say that? How could he claim to be hurting when he was the one who had destroyed everything? I don't know if I can keep doing this, I said, my voice shaking. I don't know if I'm strong enough to keep fighting for a relationship that doesn't even exist anymore. He didn't respond. The silence between us was deafening, and I felt myself sinking deeper into that emptiness. I had to get away. I had to think. I couldn't breathe in this house anymore. I didn't expect to see him that night. I didn't expect to feel my heart rip out of my chest all over again. But there he was, walking out of our house, with her. I stood in the living room, frozen. My breath caught in my throat as they walked down the steps, their voices low, but not quiet enough to hide the intimacy between them. His hand brushed her back, the same way he used to touch me. The same way he used to touch me when it was just us. I don't know what it was that snapped inside me. Maybe it was the image of him with her, the fact that he was so comfortable, so carefree, or the realization that this was no longer something I could pretend away. Maybe it was the bitter, burning anger that overtook me, all of a sudden, like an uncontrollable fire. I couldn't just stand there anymore. I couldn't wait for him to come back inside and give me his lies and his excuses. I had to do something. Anything. I grabbed the first thing I could find, the wedding photo on the mantel. The frame shattered as I threw it against the wall. I heard the glass break and felt something crack inside me, like I was breaking too. But it didn't matter anymore. I marched to the closet, my hands shaking, but determined. Everything he'd ever given me, everything that reminded me of him, I threw it all into the trash. The gift from our first anniversary, the little trinkets, the things he claimed were meaningful. It was all just garbage now. I was shaking, but it wasn't from fear. I was shaking from the adrenaline, from the relief, from the tiny spark of freedom I was starting to feel. Stop, I heard him say. I spun around, heart racing again. There he was, standing in the doorway, watching me. I wanted to yell, to scream at him, but instead, I held the next photo frame and threw it as hard as I could. Stop? No. You don't get to tell me to stop. Don't do this, he said, his voice cold and distant. What are you even trying to prove? Trying to prove? I laughed, though it was bitter and ugly. I'm trying to prove that I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with your lies, your manipulation, your bullshit. He stepped forward, his face angry but not apologetic. You think this is going to fix anything? You think throwing stuff around will make me come back to you? I'm not throwing things around for you, I spat. I'm throwing them around for me. I need to get rid of you. You've poisoned everything. You've poisoned my life. He scoffed. You're overreacting. Just calm down and let's talk about this. Talk about what? I felt the tears pricking at my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I had cried too many times already. How you've been sleeping with her. How you've been betraying me for God knows how long. You want to talk about that? You're making a scene. His voice was icy now, like I wasn't even worth getting upset over. You're embarrassing yourself. I don't give a damn, I snapped, voice shaking with a mix of rage and heartbreak. I've spent months walking on eggshells, making excuses for you, wondering why you didn't care anymore. I was afraid to look at the truth. But not anymore. I see it now. And you know what? I'm done. I could see it in his eyes. The indifference. The way he looked at me like I was a nuisance. An obstacle he had to deal with. I was done being the person who begged for scraps of attention, scraps of love. I've been fighting for a relationship that was already dead, I said quietly, almost to myself. And I don't even know why. Because you haven't fought. For me. You never did. I could feel the weight lifting as I spoke, as if my words were cutting through the years of self-doubt, of worrying about his feelings while mine were ignored. You think I didn't fight for you? He sounded almost offended. Like I was the one who had wronged him. I don't know, I said, my voice trembling. You tell me. You've been sleeping with her, haven't you? You've been so distant, so cold. You don't even look at me the way you used to. You don't even care anymore. He didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence was enough. I couldn't keep looking at him. It was suffocating. He was suffocating me, just standing there, acting like everything was fine. Like he wasn't destroying everything we built. I turned away, not able to look at him for one more second. I don't even want you here anymore. I don't want your lies, your excuses. I want to move on. I want my life back. You're making a huge mistake, he said, but it was too late. His words were like water off a duck's back now, no. I said, my voice breaking as I reached for the last memento, the last thing he'd ever given me, a necklace I used to wear all the time. I threw it in the trash with everything else. The mistake was trusting you. I could feel the finality of it in my chest, like something inside me that had been heavy and aching for so long was finally lifting. The anger was still there. But underneath it, there was relief. I wanted to scream, but instead, I turned away. I didn't look back. He didn't stop me. He didn't try to explain himself. He didn't do anything, and that, more than anything, told me everything I needed to know that I couldn't just let it go. Not now. Not after everything he'd put me through. I knew confronting her wouldn't give me closure, but I wasn't looking for that anymore. I wasn't looking for apologies or explanations or a reason to stay in this toxic mess. I wanted justice. I wanted her to understand the damage she'd caused. I found her name, her number, the address she shared with him in those texts. The weight of it all felt like a storm building inside me: anger, betrayal, disgust, and a strange sense of power. I didn't even know who I was anymore, but I was damn sure I wasn't the woman who let this slide. I made the decision to go. The thought of facing her made my stomach twist, but I needed to. I had to. When I arrived at her house, it felt surreal. I wasn't even sure what I was going to say. But I knew I had to say something. This wasn't just about him. It was about me. It was about taking back control over my own life. I stood in front of her door, my knuckles trembling as I raised my hand to knock. She opened it before I had a chance. Her expression was blank at first, but as soon as she saw me, something shifted. In her eyes. She recognized me. "I'm sorry, can I help you?" she asked, her voice cold and polite. I wanted to laugh at how rehearsed she sounded, like she was expecting this moment to come. I stepped forward, keeping my voice steady, even though every part of me wanted to scream. "Yeah, I think you can help me. I just need you to understand something." She frowned, clearly confused. "What do you mean? Do you have any idea what you've done?" My voice was firm now, cutting through the tension between us. "What your actions have done to my life?" Her expression shifted to one of defensive guilt. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Look, I don't." I cut her off, stepping closer, making sure she heard every word. "Don't act like you didn't know. I found everything. The texts. The pictures. You were in my home. In my life, in my marriage. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you did it anyway. You broke me. You broke us." She blinked, her face faltering for a second. I could see the panic in her eyes, but I wasn't done. "You think you can just waltz into someone's life and take what doesn't belong to you?" I continued, my chest tightening with every word. "You think that you won't pay for it? You think it won't matter to anyone?" "I didn't know it was like that," she said, her voice now shaking, less confident. "I didn't know about you, okay? He said it was over." Her words stung. How could she say that? How could she act like she didn't? No? Did she really believe that lie? "You knew," I said, my voice hardening. "You knew exactly what you were doing. And now you're going to feel it." She took a step back, her hands trembling slightly. "Please, I didn't know," I snapped, cutting her off again. "You don't get to play the victim here. You knew. You were there. I was the one left in the dark, living a lie. You've ruined everything, and now you're going to face it." The silence stretched out, and I could see her trying to come up with something to say, but nothing came. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, like she didn't know how to explain her actions. I wasn't interested in hearing any of it. I turned to leave, but I wasn't done. I had one more thing to say. "You don't get to be a part of my story anymore. And neither does he. I'm done." With that, I left. I didn't look back. The next day, I started the process. The divorce. I knew it would be painful. I knew the emotional and financial costs would be heavy. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to sit around and let him tear my life apart anymore. I sat down with the lawyer and went over everything: how long we'd been married, the property, the assets, the emotional damage. It all felt like a blur. It was official. Now. There was no going back. "You know this will take time, right?" my lawyer said, trying to gauge my emotions. "It's going to get ugly. There will be back and forth. It won't be easy." I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I had no idea how long it would take. But I knew that whatever happened, it would be worth it. It had to be. The next few days dragged on, but with each passing hour, I felt more in control of my life. I wasn't sitting there waiting for him to decide my fate. I was taking charge, and though the weight of the divorce, the judgment from friends and family, and the heartbreak felt unbearable at times, I could feel something shifting inside me. I wasn't the same person I had been. The woman who had been willing to do anything to keep a broken relationship intact was gone. I was reclaiming my life, my power, my worth. As the divorce proceedings continued, I began to feel more and more certain of my decision. The legal battles were draining, yes, and there were moments where I wondered if it would ever be over, but I was no longer afraid of the fallout. I had found strength in the chaos. I started focusing more on myself. I spent time with friends who supported me, found new hobbies, and reconnected with the person I used to be. Every day, I grew stronger, more confident. I wasn't waiting for someone else to fix me anymore. I was fixing myself, and somewhere along the way, I began to realize that maybe, just maybe, I deserved better. I woke up that morning feeling something I hadn't in a long time: calm. It was strange, like the world had slowed down just for me. I had been drowning in chaos for so long, trying to keep my head above water, but today, everything felt different. Today, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. I picked up the divorce papers from the table where I had left them the night before. The weight of them had felt heavy, almost suffocating. But now, as I signed my name at the bottom, it was freeing. There was something deeply satisfying about seeing my name on that line. I wasn't doing this for him anymore. I wasn't doing this to fix things or get back at him. I was doing it for me. I paused, the pen still in my hand, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of control. I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the one waiting for him to decide my fate. I was the one in charge of my future. When I signed the papers, it was like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I walked into the kitchen, feeling the small victory wash over me. No more pretending. No more waiting for apologies that would never come. I was done. That's when my phone buzzed. It was him. Of course. I'd been expecting this. He hadn't reached out in a few days, and now, here he was, trying to pull me back in with his words. Hey, can we talk? I know things have been hard, but I want to make this work. I'm sorry. I've been thinking about everything. I stared at the screen for a moment, my heart racing. A part of me wanted to reply, wanted to hear him say that he was sorry, that he understood the pain he'd caused. But I didn't. I put the phone down and walked away. I didn't need to respond. I didn't need him anymore. I felt something shift inside me. That nagging guilt that had been eating away at me for months was finally starting to fade. I wasn't responsible for his mistakes. I wasn't responsible for holding on to something that was never going to work. I was done carrying the weight of this broken marriage. When I went to work that day, I noticed it more. The little things that used to stress me out, emails, deadlines, small tasks, felt lighter. I was handling everything better, more efficiently. It was like I could finally breathe. The divorce was still ongoing, of course. The legal part was messy, and the financial side was complicated. But I wasn't afraid of it anymore. I wasn't afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of what would happen next. Hey, are you okay? My friend Jenna asked me during lunch. I smiled, feeling the weight in my chest lift a little more. Yeah, I'm fine. Actually, I think I'm better than fine, I said. Trying not to sound too dramatic, but the truth was, I was. She looked at me, surprised. That's great to hear. You've been through so much, and it's good to see you like this. I'm finally starting to feel like myself again, I admitted, taking a deep breath. I've been stuck in this cycle for so long, and I'm done with it. I'm done letting someone else define my worth. Jenna smiled. That's amazing. You deserve to feel free, to be yourself again. I nodded. It felt like the first time in years that I wasn't asking for permission to be happy, to be at peace with myself. The next few weeks flew by. I was navigating the divorce with a new sense of purpose. It wasn't easy, but with each step, I felt stronger. I'd started taking control of my finances, too, opening a new account for myself, setting aside money I hadn't touched before. I wasn't waiting for him to come to my rescue anymore. I could do this on my own, and with that realization, the healing started to take shape. One evening, I sat on my couch with a cup of tea, staring at the empty space where our pictures used to be. I had removed all of them. I didn't want reminders of a life I could never get back. But I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel empty. I felt freed. I glanced at my phone again. There were more texts from him, but I ignored them. I didn't need him to make things right anymore. I didn't need his apologies. I had spent too long waiting for someone else to give me the happiness I deserved. But the truth was, it had always been within me. It had never been about him. It was about me realizing my own worth, my own strength. I picked up the phone and deleted his number. I wasn't erasing the past, but I was choosing to move forward without it. A month later, I stood in front of the mirror, finally seeing someone I recognized. Not the woman who had been clinging to a broken marriage, not the woman who had given everything only to be discarded, but the woman who had fought for herself. The woman who had found her strength, her voice. I'm enough, I whispered to myself, the words feeling like a new mantra. I'm enough. For the first time, I believed it. I was on my own now, and it was more than okay. It was exactly what I needed. I didn't expect to feel calm. I thought this moment, this last confrontation with him, would shatter me. But as I stood in front of the door, my hand poised to knock, I realized that I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't the broken, pleading woman I once was. I had become someone stronger, someone who didn't need his lies to define me. When the door opened, I felt that familiar jolt in my chest, but it wasn't the same as before. I wasn't trembling. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. Hey, he said, his voice sounding more indifferent than anything. I took a breath. We need to talk. He sighed, leaning against the doorframe, as if he was exhausted by the very idea of it. Yeah, I figured you'd want to do this. I'm done, I said, my voice steady. You don't get to play the victim anymore. You don't get to pretend you didn't hurt me, didn't ruin everything. He smirked. You're still holding on to this? Come on, we can work this out. We always do, right? I stood there, meeting his gaze without flinching. No, we don't always work things out. Because I'm not the same person who used to beg you for answers. I'm not the same person who thought I could fix you. I'm done. He took a step closer, and for a moment, I could see the faintest hint of desperation in his eyes. Look, I know I messed up. But we can fix this. We can move on from this. It's not too late. I laughed, but it was hollow. Fix it? You can't fix something that's been broken beyond repair. You've done too much. Said too much. He raised his hands, his expression shifting to one of frustration. I made a mistake. You can't just throw everything away over one mistake. What we had, it meant something. Don't act like it didn't. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm. And it was terrifying how much control that gave me. You never cared about what we had. You cared about what you could get. That's all it ever was. He took a deep breath, his face hardening. You're overreacting. You always did this, blow things out of proportion when things got tough. No, I shook my head. I'm not overreacting. I've spent too many years walking on eggshells, trying to keep you happy. But I'm done. He stepped closer again, reaching for my arm. I pulled away instinctively. You don't have to do this. You don't have to leave. We can fix this. We can talk it out. I stared at his hand, then back at him. The same man who had betrayed me, the same man who was now trying to manipulate me back into the same toxic cycle. I'm not your puppet, I said, my voice sharp. And I'm not your second choice. You made your decision when you cheated. When you lied. You don't get to make me feel guilty for choosing myself for once. He looked stunned, and for a second, I thought I saw something flicker behind his eyes. Guilt, maybe. But he quickly masked it. You're just going to walk away? Like it was all my fault? You think you're some victim in all of this? I'm not the victim, I replied, standing taller, no longer afraid to face him. I'm the survivor. And I'm done being a part of your story. I'm done being a part of your lies. I saw the anger flash in his eyes, and for a moment, I thought he might say something cruel. But instead, he took a step back, his shoulders slumping. I don't get you. You used to be so different. No, I corrected him, I used to be someone who let you treat me like crap. I used to be someone who believed in your empty promises. But I'm not that person anymore. And I don't need you to complete me. He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. No more excuses. No more games. You don't get to apologize now and expect me to fall back into your arms. I'm not your fallback plan anymore. You've ruined everything, and you've lost me. I didn't wait for his response. I turned on my heel and walked out the door, feeling the finality of it settling deep in my bones. The moment I stepped outside, the weight that had been crushing my chest for so long lifted. I was free. I didn't need him. I didn't need his approval, his excuses, his guilt. I had reclaimed my life. I didn't look back. I spent the rest of the day processing everything, but not in the way I used to. I wasn't torn apart by what had happened. I wasn't drowning in self-doubt or regret. I wasn't angry. I was relieved. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe without him hanging over me. The truth was, I didn't need him anymore. Not for validation. Not for closure. Not for anything. I had been holding on to a version of myself that didn't exist anymore, clinging to a lie I had told myself for years. I was done with it. Done with him. Done with the idea that I needed someone else to complete me. I was complete on my own, and for the first time, I could see my future clearly. It didn't involve him. It didn't involve anyone but me. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, finally. Feeling at peace, the door had closed behind me, and it was final. For the first time in months, I knew that I could walk away, and I didn't have to look back. It's funny how the world shifts once you start seeing it for what it truly is. When the divorce was final, I felt like I had been handed a second chance, a chance to rebuild, to find out who I was without the weight of a broken marriage dragging me down. I hadn't realized how heavy it had all been until it was over. The constant questioning, the self-doubt, the wondering if I was enough. It was like I had been holding my breath for years, and now, I could finally exhale. Okay, enough with the self-pity, I said out loud to myself, sitting on my couch. The apartment felt quieter, emptier, but somehow in a good way. I wasn't waiting for anyone's approval anymore. The first thing I did was call my best friend, Jenna. Hey, I know it's been a while, but can we get together soon? I asked, hearing the excitement in my voice. I think I'm ready to start over. I thought you'd never ask, she laughed. We've been waiting for you to come back to us. Are you really sure about this? Yeah, I said, smiling for the first time in a long while. I think I'm ready. The next few weeks were a blur of new experiences. I started taking up activities I hadn't had time for in years. I signed up for a cooking class, started going to the gym again, and spent hours reconnecting with friends I had pushed aside during the years of my marriage. It felt strange, at first, to be doing things for myself, without the weight of someone else's expectations hanging over me, but as I spent more time on my own, I realized how much I had neglected myself. I was learning to enjoy my own company. Again, I can't believe you're doing this. Jenna said one night as we sat at our favorite cafe, sipping coffee. You're practically a new person. I guess I am, I said, feeling a strange pride swell in my chest. I think I finally know who I am. And I like her. Hell yeah, Jenna laughed. You've always been amazing, but you've been so focused on him for so long. It's good to see you finally seeing that. It felt like a light bulb had gone off inside me. I wasn't just healing from the divorce, I was rediscovering myself, reclaiming the life that I had put on hold. I met someone new about a month later. His name was Mark, and we met at a local art exhibit. He wasn't my type, too young, too free-spirited, but there was something about him that drew me in. He made me laugh, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel weighed down by anything. Do you come to these kinds of things often? He asked as we walked through the exhibit together, sipping on wine. Honestly, no, I admitted. I've always been too busy for things like this. Well, I'm glad you're here now. He smiled, and there was something genuine about it that made me feel good. I didn't expect anything serious from him. It was too soon for that, and I wasn't ready to jump into another relationship. But just talking to someone, having a conversation, without the constant baggage of my past, felt refreshing. We went on a couple more dates, nothing too heavy. But I started to feel something shift inside me. I wasn't looking for someone to complete me, I wasn't looking for validation anymore. I was starting to realize that I was enough on my own. Mark, for all his charm, was just a reminder that I didn't need anyone to make me feel whole. I was already whole. There were moments, of course, when loneliness crept in. It wasn't constant, but sometimes I'd catch myself wishing there was someone to come home to. Someone who could hold me at the end of the day and tell me everything was okay. But then I'd remind myself, I was okay on my own. I was building my own life now. I don't know how you do it, Jenna said one day after I told her I was going to take a solo trip to the coast. I'd be lost without someone. You're missing the point, I said, smiling softly. I'm not lost. I'm free. She didn't get it. Not yet. But I knew, in time, she would. The weeks turned into months, and as the seasons changed, so did I. I was no longer a person defined by my past, by the mistakes of my marriage. I was someone who had learned to walk away from the things that didn't serve me, from the people who tried to control me, from the relationship that had drained me. I went to the beach one weekend, just to be alone with my thoughts. The wind on my face, the sound of the waves crashing, it was like everything had come full circle. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't broken. I was healing, and I was ready for whatever came next. One evening, after coming home from work, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. I saw someone strong, someone who had been through hell and come out the other side. I had faced my fears, my insecurities, my past, and I had come out unbroken. I'm enough, I whispered, my voice full of conviction. I'm more than enough. I wasn't waiting for anyone to tell me that anymore. I had found my worth on my own, and that night, as I lay in bed, my heart felt lighter than it had in years. There was no fear, no lingering doubts. Just peace. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to be alone. I was more than capable of living my life on my terms, and that was exactly what I was going to do. The new beginning wasn't something that had happened overnight. It had taken time, effort, and more than a few tears. But it was mine. And it was beautiful. I stood in front of the mirror, looking at the woman staring back at me. For so long, I had been defined by my past, by the betrayal, by the lies. But now, as I looked into my own eyes, I realized something had shifted. I wasn't that woman anymore. I had fought my way through the storm and had come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and whole. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to hold on to the anger, the resentment, or the bitterness. I had carried that for too long. It had eaten away at me, turning me into someone I didn't even recognize. But now, I could feel the weight lifting. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to make him feel the way I did. That was his burden to carry, not mine. I didn't need closure, either. For so long, I thought that I would never be able to move on unless I had all the answers. But the truth was, I already had the answer. I had always had it. I had the strength within me to let go. Hey, you're finally doing it, huh? Jenna's voice broke through my thoughts. She had been by my side through it all, but today, I knew the last piece was falling into place.